Hi there, this is Mr. Poopy from MP Substrates. Today we're going to be talking about how to make liquid culture. This video is going to go over the materials you need and the procedures you'll take to produce enough liquid culture for 100 spawn bags. These are the materials all laid out, what you'll need to modify the jar lids, the dry materials for the mix, and the equipment you'll use to sterilize the media. When it comes to the lids, I really like these ball leak-proof lids. If you're going to be doing multiple runs, it's worth it to invest the time into modifying these lids over the metal ones. If you have metal lids initially, they can be used. The only issue is over time, the liquid culture can begin to rust the inside of the lid and it compromises the seal and can lead to contamination. So I would recommend, if you are going to be doing more than one run, invest in the ball leak-proof lids. Stir bars and stir plates, they are optional. I really like to use them. They do increase the colonization speed quite a bit, and it produces more mycelial tissue within the jar versus manually agitating. If you don't have a stir plate, you can use a glass marble, place it into your jar prior to sterilization, and every day while it's colonizing, be sure to shake the jar up to break up the mycelial tissue and allow it to colonize in the jar. For gas exchange, I use syringe filters. They're 0.2 micron and they're hydrophobic, so they'll repel water. I recommend replacing these after every run. We're going to take our lids and we're going to start by drilling our holes in them. You're going to take the smaller drill bit that fits the syringe filter and poke that through the center of your jar lids. When sizing your drill bit for the syringe filter, make sure that the syringe filter can freely go into the hole without being forced in. You don't want too tight of a fit. The RTV will seal it. Then take your larger bit, go about an inch off of where you made the center hole, and drill out that larger hole. It will be used as the injection port. If you end up with any burrs after the drilling process, just take a razor and ream it out. You want a flat surface for the RTV silicone to adhere to. Once your surfaces have been prepared, you're ready to apply your RTV silicone. I like to use RTV in a caulking gun. It just allows for more accuracy and I can apply more RTV quicker. If you don't have a caulking gun, they do sell it in tubes. You can get it at most automotive stores and Walmart. All you're going to be doing is just covering the hole with the RTV silicone. I like to dab it in initially as I'm doing the top part of it, and that'll kind of fill the hole in. And then I come in from the bottom side and seal it off. The syringe filter I do a little bit different. I like to pick it up from the lure lock side and hold it like this. I apply the RTV to the circumference of the syringe filter, just making sure that you don't get any RTV in the actual opening of the syringe filter. Once you have it on there, just poke it through the hole and press down until it seals against the jar lid. Measure out your 4 quarts of water and add them to your stock pot. Place your stock pot on a burner or a hot plate and place it on high. Our dry ingredients we'll be using consist of light malt extract and dextrose powder. The recipe for 4 quarts calls for 1 cup of dextrose powder and 1 tablespoon of light malt extract. Set your dry ingredients aside and come back over to your stock pot. You're looking for just below boiling point. You want to see the water starting to bubble up, but not get it so hot that it's causing the water to steam off. If your water is boiling, just drop the temperature or remove it from heat. You don't need the water boiling when you add the dry ingredients. Once your water's at the desired temperature, go ahead and grab a whisk and start getting the water spinning. You want to get some movement to it before you start adding in your sugars. You want to tap it in slowly, not dump it in all at once to avoid clumping. If you have sugar that sticks to the spoon, you can just dip it into the pot and rinse that sugar off to make sure that you get all of the sugar into the mix. Keep the water moving, add the second sugar, and again, I'm going to slowly add it into the mix, continuing to stir the entire time. It doesn't make a difference whether you add the dextrose or the light malt extract first, or if you want to mix them together and add them at the same time, that's fine. The key thing to remember is to keep the water stirring and slowly add in the ingredients so they don't clump up and not mix into the water. Once your dry ingredients have dissolved, go ahead and turn the heat off. I like to keep mixing for about 3 to 5 minutes or so just to make sure that the sugars are all completely dissolved. But once I actually dump everything in there, I go ahead and turn the heat off. One thing to note, there is a lot of variation in light malt extract in the color and the clarity and things like that. So if your liquid culture doesn't look exactly like ours, that's okay. The difference may be the light malt extract. Once your liquid culture is finished, add stir bars to your jars or glass marbles, and then you're going to add your liquid culture into the jars. When you're filling the jars up, I like to leave about an inch spacing between the top of the liquid to the top of the jar. This allows for an area of gas exchange while the liquid culture is colonizing. Once your jars are full, take your lids and screw them on pretty snug. You don't want to leave them too loose. If there's a gap and it doesn't seal, you'll have liquid culture that will boil out. So make sure you snug them down, but not so tight that you can't open them up after to inoculate them. Grab a roll of tin foil, tear off a piece wide enough to cover up the jar lid. You're going to be using this to go over the syringe filter to keep out any raining water particulates that may drop down during the pressure cooking cycle. So fit it over your jar lid and make sure it's snug. Take your pressure cooker, fill it up with enough water for a 25-minute pressure cooking cycle. I use about 2 to 3 inches of water on the bottom. Take your jars and place them in the pressure cooker. Leave a little bit of space between them. Planning ahead, if you are going to inoculate these liquid cultures with an agar culture, go ahead and take your scalpel that you'll be using and place it inside the pressure cooker so that it's also sterilized. Once everything is placed inside, grab your lid and close your pressure cooker. Place your pressure cooker on the hot plate or burner and set it to high. Remove the weight and wait for the steam to start venting off. You're looking for it to vent for about 5 minutes before you add the weight. After the 5 minutes of venting, place the weight on top of the pressure cooker and allow for the pressure to build. Once your pressure cooker hits 15 psi, start a timer for 25 minutes. It's very important that you don't let the cooker go over 15 psi. The sugars will caramelize very easily and it can ruin the liquid culture. Maintain that 15 psi for 25 minutes and then remove the pressure cooker from heat and allow it to cool naturally. Once everything is cooled down, I like to place my pressure cooker near my work area and unload the jars directly onto my work surface. So whether that be in front of the flow hood or in the still air box, you want to limit the exposure that the jars have to non-sterile air before you inoculate them. Thank you for taking the time to watch our how-to video on how we produce our liquid culture. The next video we're going to talk about will go over how to inoculate the liquid culture, what colonization looks like, and how to test the liquid culture to make sure it's contamination free.